Welcome to the equities and commodities review. Um, None of this is financial advice. It is just what we see and sharing it, and take with a pinch of salt. And let's get going. I'm going to start with the Dixie on a higher time frame. So let's look at it from a daily chart perspective, a weekly chart perspective. What you can see is we've got a very strong candle here. Volume is strong. You can also see there's a divergence between prices here and here. We've swept the lows of these two here. And normally when you do that, you tend to go back the other way. If you look at it from a monthly perspective, again, we've swept the lows here on this month and we've closed above the closing of these two candles here. So this is a positive. If we bring it to say 4 hours and look at what's going to happen, I think there's potentially a pullback in it because of this candle here. So, you saw this candle was taking back. You've got a gap as well in here. So probably I'd expect this to pull back to about somewhere here, which would be the 95.9 area. And then we get going again. So that's the Dixie. I'd expect the Dixie to continue going up after maybe it comes to touch our moving average here, somewhere there, and then it'll continue going up. So that's the Dixie. Let's move on to the XPX quickly. So the XPX on a weekly chart, let's look at the monthly chart actually. The month close was good. We closed higher, but the RSI is looking good. The RSI here is also looking good. But there's a problem I see with MACD not giving us energy. The energy is not there. It's a bit similar to this picture here, where you kind of try to go and the energy is not there and then you get a snapback. So I'm seeing something similar here. This is a warning shot that we've got and we've gone above it. So I think potentially best case scenario would be we go slightly higher, maybe just knock stop losses off. So if we put it somewhere just above here as our create, lock it in as our kind of place opportunity here. And then of course would expect us to come back into this here, somewhere here, come back, snap all the way back here. I mean, the initial stage will be here, go slightly lower, and then you would come all the way down here would be what we'd expect. Go to the weekly chart. It's a similar story on the weekly chart as well. Um, and you can see here, you've gone high. We've gone a high here. And if we can see there's divergences on MACD, and there's also divergences as well on the RSIs as well. So we go high there. Um, and your RSI here is lower and it didn't really move much to be honest. So I think this is probably an year for a top here, the local top that we've got, which brings us all the way back down to somewhere here, maybe the 6.5 zone. 6.5 zone will be an area that we think the XPX can fall back to. So let's lock it in. And that's what we see on the XPX. Let's move on to the next pair, which is Nasdaq. Um, so the Nasdaq is also a very similar story as you can see here. Again, you can see our, you know, the RSIs did not really support this move going up. The MACD did not support the move going up. So although volume is strong, it's probably to knock stop losses to this point here, which we had anyway from last week. So I'd expect this to come down again back to somewhere here. If we put an alert on there, somewhere around the 23,650 zone will be where I would expect. I mean, you could still go slightly higher to knock stop losses off this wick. So don't be surprised to see price around maybe 25,900. If you bring it to 4 hours, you can see that you've got a lot of let's get this bigger. We got a lot of big selling candles. So, I wouldn't be surprised that we come and recover some of the liquidity sitting at the top here. I won't be surprised. So with this pink candle formed here, chances are we come back up first and recover this liquidity, which is all stacked up against here. So that's what we see on the NAS 100. And then I'll go to silver. So silver, let's start on the weekly chart as well. So again, we have a stop on the week and the month. We have a kind of a long wick at the top. Finally, we've been brought back into the band. So onto the BB band, and we're still above the KC band. If I put a KC band back to my four standard deviations, which I use, you can see here we've just come back in between the two nicely. So I'd expect us to maybe try to go up into it, and I've marked my area of interest here around the 5,300 zone as a kind of a mini rally to knock some stop losses off this wick. I mean, it could go slightly higher. And then come down. If we bring it to the weekly chart, so this week we have to take some liquidity back. So I'll put my area of interest somewhere here between the Bollinger Band and the KC channel. Somewhere there could go as high as 5,350, but between 5,250 and 5,350 somewhere there. And then after that, you'll be expected to come all the way back down here to the middle of the KC channel, which is sitting around 4,300 somewhere there. So we can bring this for 300. So for 3 somewhere there. So we can log that in. And that is gold. So small move to the upside, collapse back to the downside will be what we'd say. Make sure your stop loss is above this wick if you take the trade. And then silver. Silver is also the same story. On the weekly chart, you can see here we've volume is really strong selling. You're gonna go lower, but there's a lot of liquidity that we need to grab some of them. So I'd expect this maybe we come back to the Bollinger and the Bollinger is sitting around 98.3 and the KC channel is at 113. So somewhere 98 and 113 in between there. I prefer the 113. It's where probably I think we'll weaken to. And if you bring it to the 4-hour chart, you can see that there is a strong rejection of price here coming in. So, you will definitely get a move to the upside. You will get a move to the upside to recover, all these some of the liquidity which is sitting there. So 103 all the way up to the 113,000, 113 zone, and then that will be we'll come all the way down to somewhere here, which is around the 47, 48. So that is our view on silver. And then I'll look at copper. So copper, and I'll show you something very interesting on copper as well. If you look at this big sell-off we had in July, yeah, you can see you took all the liquidity off it, and that's why we did this move back up here. So we had to just take liquidity off, and that this has created a divergence between this peak and this peak. So the next leg is to come all the way down to the 200, which is sitting around 4.2. If you take it, make sure your stop loss is maybe somewhere around above the KC channel, 6.85. If you take the trade, make sure that's where your stop loss is. So I think we'll just move this here. 200 moving average will be where we expect price to come to before we get anywhere. And I think we'll get bounce back up. So your bounce back up probably could take you somewhere there, to about 6.18. But it's not a long trade, to be honest. You should be looking for shorts on this. Um, so that is copper as well. Palladium. I'll have a quick look at palladium as well. Palladium is also, giving us a topping signal. But what I would say is it will probably go higher, this one. Um, the reason why I say it will go higher is because you're going to have a golden cross. Okay, and golden crosses tend to lead to price pulling into the 200, SMA and EMA, and then after that you then go on your rally. So I'd expect this to come back to the 200, on this fall and then go back up again, would be what I'd say on this one. So we'll put our alert there. But in terms of you can get moved all the way back down, back up to somewhere here, back to maybe 2027, 2027, 2027 here, somewhere there. You can expect price to take some liquidity. And if I go on forwards, you see there's a bounce. Yeah, you can see there's a bounce happening. So it will probably rally up, take some of the liquidity. It probably may fail somewhere here. 1,900 might fail here, but it can overshoot, it can overshoot. So bear in mind, it can overshoot all the way to even 2,100 before the collapse happens. So uh, that's palladium. And then I think let's see which one is this platinum. So let's look at platinum as well. So I think it will be a very similar story as well on platinum. Um, on the weekly chart, you can see the thing with platinum is, it's also done kind of the key levels. We've got a wave there and a wave here. So this cools down to about here, somewhere there. This one potentially could go higher again before falling down significantly. So would expect me a pullback to here and then go back up again. Would be what we would say. And your liquidity sucking has to happen. So you can expect price to come back to somewhere here and then continuous leg to the 50 would be what we say. So that will be and if you take the short, make sure your stop loss is somewhere here. Somewhere around here, just slightly above it, 3,000 stop loss, probably be about 3,000. And you'll be all right. So that is, I think, all the coins that I wanted to cover. And I let's actually have a look at our Netflix trade and see what's going on with Netflix. So, Netflix is still bleeding. Um, so we bought somewhere here, and we're looking for our next buy below this candle. So let's move this. I think our next buy will be somewhere here. So we will lock that in and we think there's a move on Netflix coming. So we bought our first trunk somewhere there and we'll buy our next truck here. And that hopefully should give us a good ride to the other side. If you bring it to the daily chart, you can see there's something's happening here. Strong volume is coming. We bounced up and I think we just sweep the lows. So we'll go lower to sweep the lows. I think this is too hard. My level is too far. I think up on the daily chart. I think it's too far. So let's just move it somewhere here. Yeah, we'll sweep these lows and then hopefully we'll be able to go back up all the way back up to test the 200. So that's the trade on Netflix. And that's all I've got. And I wish you all the best and have a good week and God bless you.